Well, Keith, we were just talking about that snowpack, and
Yes.
here we are, we get snow, and then it's followed up by rain.
Yeah. Sometimes the sum isn't really the whole story, right? And fortunately, that's the least of our concerns here. We've got the snow, some ice, and then some rain and wind. Here's the snow starting to move in. Again, we were looking out the window in the studio here in Portland, already accumulating. So really efficient stuff, a lot like what we had over the weekend. Not necessarily ripping snow at any given time, but light to moderate bands that will continue through a good part of tonight, and it will accumulate efficiently. So this is 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, 11, still snowing across much of the state. Temperatures at this point are in the 20s, so talk about easy accumulation. That'll continue to at least midnight for most of us. And then here we are at 2 a.m. down East Maine, the mid-coast still seeing snow, starting to wrap things up over southern Maine. And I do think that for pretty much everyone, tomorrow morning when you wake up, the snow is done. And there's not a lot of moisture on this predicted radar. The problem is what we know the atmosphere is stacked like. It's going to be very cold at the surface, temperatures in the mid-20s, even low 20s, and above it is very, very warm. So anything that falls tomorrow during the day even is going to be freezing rain. And so we'll call it freezing drizzle because there's not a lot of moisture, but there's a chance for some coatings of ice here through the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. The second batch of precipitation moves into that same air mass. So this is tomorrow night at midnight, and another shot of freezing rain is possible over southern Maine and central Maine, and then eventually we all change over to rain, which will have its own issues we'll talk about in a second. This is the easier part of the forecast, 1 to 3 inches of snow for most of us. A couple spots of 3 to 5 inches across western Maine and in through the lakes region and mountains of New Hampshire. And then the ice, we're not talking about big numbers here. It's not an ice storm, but there will be some ice accretion, 0.1 to a quarter of an inch. And I know that doesn't mean much, right? But think of it this way. A half inch of ice is kind of a disaster. A quarter of an inch is noticeable. And then under that, we're talking about coatings. And that's mostly what we're looking at here, especially on untreated surfaces. If things are salted up and treated, we shouldn't have any issues, secondary roads and stuff like that. So that's tomorrow night. Change over to rain on Wednesday, and it's raining hard and it's windy. Sharp cold front. And these are tough because you only have an hour to maybe an hour and a half where you can get our strongest winds. But all the global and mesoscale models have very strong winds out of the south here. And I think it's fair to say that we'll see wind gusts of 50 to maybe 55 miles an hour. The question is, are we going to be able to get these numbers? And some models even have higher than this. Are we able to mix that down to the surface? I'd plan for power outages on Wednesday night. It's an order of magnitude thing based on how strong those winds will be, and we'll try to nail that down a little bit more tomorrow morning when we get through this snow. Last thought, the rain. So once it starts raining on Wednesday, we'll be looking at 2 to 2.5 inches of rain. In addition to snow melt in the mountains, will cause some flooding. This will not be like last December storm. For one thing, we had 5 to 6 inches of rain. For the other thing, we had a very ripened snowpack. So it was snowpack that had been warmed and was ready to melt off. That's not the situation here. It is a colder snowpack, and it will not just obliterate the snow in the mountains. So a lot of different things to think about here, and I think it comes down to where you live, what might be most concerning to you. Along the coast, I'd be focused personally on those winds on Wednesday night. Just inland, the freezing drizzle, and the mountains, I would say the rain on Wednesday. So it kind of is area specific as to the greatest hazard here.
A lot to take in. Stay with us each day so we can kind of focus on each one.
Yep.
Thanks, Keith.